Hey, everybody, what's going on? It's your homeboy E Short in his man room as usual, coming to with another E&L Sports Talk Show. What's going on, Les?
Yo, everything is good, man. We got the big brother in the house, man. Our big younger brother in the house. So that's
Yeah,
a
there
good
you
thing.
go. Everybody, let's get this show going and get Dion Ashman in here. Dion, how you doing, my brother?
I am doing quite well, gentlemen. It is wonderful and a pleasure to be here with both of you.
Yeah, I hear you, man. Well, tell everybody, the general public, about your journey and about Dion Ashman.
Uh, Once again, the name is Dion Michael Ashman. I born and raised Crown Heights, Brooklyn, to Jamaican parents. Third generation, actually. My grandparents settled here first, and of course, my parents, and then my generation. My brother, my sister, and I grew up in, like I said, Crown Heights. Crown Heights, like by Medgar Evers College. That's what people realize. I grew up right up the block from Ebbets Field, Crown and Fifth Avenue, just down the block from the Armory, which we call the Major Owens Center now. Went to PS 161, IS 320, Millwood High School like UE. Then went on to junior college. I goofed off, played 1 year high school basketball, played at New York City Tech, then went to Pace University on a full basketball scholarship and played 1 year of tournament ball, semi-pro tournament ball with the IBA. Played a little bit in the preseason with the USBL before I got injured with a hip pointer. And the basketball journey's been real. I mean, like, came up in all the tournaments, like Nero, played in Forster Park, played in out on Bay 5 at the clock. Battle you guys when you played with Steve Lewis All-Stars, E.
Yeah.
Battle against both of you in Wingate Park, you Les, throwing them Hardwick elbows at us,
Yes.
Of course, West 4th Street. Can't leave out West 4th Street. And Richard Green's, that was like the neighborhood tournament. So we were always like the house team there. But going to Wingate, through the neighborhood, playing in West 4th Street, playing in the beach at Nickelodeon with Mike McCleggan and Cecil. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Y'all, you brothers, you brothers got me ready for patient mercy for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's funny, man, because the community at large, man, in that area, everybody kind of shares and, the wealth of history that went on. And everybody was eating, basically.
And
everybody was eating. Mm-hmm.
And yeah. Our development.
Yeah. And where did it take you from thereafter, though? I mean, because you went through just summarizing your history, but what did those experiences do for you, and where did it take you? And did you use any of those skill sets later on in your life as well?
Listen, I didn't realize when I turned 16, my brother realized when I was about 9, he realized that if he put a basketball in my hand, the basketball would do what the TV does for most kids, which is it's user-friendly and it's like a babysitter. So when he played ball with his friends in Lefferts Park, he was more a martial arts guy. Dwayne was more of a martial arts guy. He was cool. If you remember Skeeter from Lefferts Park, he and Skeet's brother came up in the dojo with the Renee brothers, this group of 4 Haitian brothers. I think it was Holden, Sir, Pierre, and Bobby, Renee. And they had a dojo on Rogers Avenue between Montgomery and Crown. And he grew up there, then went to Moses X Powell School of Sanukis on Atlantic Avenue. And they were heavily into martial arts, but Dwayne grew up playing basketball. He would bring me to the park with him. Parents didn't have to tell him to take me to the park. He'd just take me to the park with him. My big brother had his own, so he'd just take me with him. And he realized that when he put the basketball in my hand, he like literally could just leave me over there on the court. Right. And a couple of times he left me in the park and didn't realize till he was like at Rogers Avenue, Montgomery Street, coming back home. Like, yo, where's Dion? Oh, shit. he would haul it back to the park with his boys, right. And they'd be like, yo, he's right over there. And I didn't even know they left the park.
Yeah,
right.
You're just doing your thing.
Yeah, I was just busy trying to figure it out, and then they would come over and help me out. And guys like Festus and Lacey, they were the younger guys kind of in that group behind Dwayne and his boys. And it was like they would all look out for me. So it was like, I had this one big brother, an older sister who was 7 years older, Lisa, and like everybody else was like an extended brother. Like my backside was like community property, like community chest on the Monopoly board. So if I started, anybody could kick my ass, that was cool with my brother, with no questions asked.
Right.
That's how it was. So basketball became a place where I can go in between the lines, feel crazy comfortable, and just have a good time. And then how did it impact the rest of my life? Basketball teaches you teamwork, there's socialization skills, there's different egos, it's different with different skill sets. It literally, my basketball network provided every professional position that I've ever had in my life, except actually even one that I worked at for a short period of time, for like 2 weeks, I worked at this Jewish financial, they were like into stocks. And then Richard Green from the Crown Heights Youth Collective hooked me up with that. And I didn't like it. I just didn't feel comfortable in that environment. And it was racist as all get out. And at the time I was just out of college. So, and out of playing semi-football. So I wasn't feeling that. And I lasted there for I left after 2 weeks. I literally just respectfully went to the supervisor and let him know that I'm back.
That's funny. Les and I lived in that environment our whole careers.
I know, right? Yeah.
It's funny because now it's a little different with me, because over the years you begin to teach yourself different things. You see what other athletes go through with NFL players having a lifespan of 3 years maybe. The average, and basketball players 5 years after retirement, they're broke, filing bankruptcy. So it pushes you to learn different things. It pushes you to read certain books just to be aware. But the basketball network has helped me in all aspects of my life. I mean, it's helped me provide for my family. I started my production company and started personal, fitness coaching because of that. And after I left radio, I ended up becoming an athletic director in a prison for teenagers upstate New York.
Wow. So
working with kids who predominantly look like the three of us on this Zoom that ran amok with the law, unfortunately, got convicted and served time. And working with that population was another, it goes back to basketball. I created a dream team in the lockup. And I had 2 teams. I had a dream team and I had an I Dream of Going Home team for the kids who wouldn't follow the program.
Wow.
So I had 2 teams, put in the purchase request that turned into a purchase order, got uniforms for them. And I invited in teams that were club teams that we played against in the local leagues up in I was in Harlem Valley's in a town called Wingdale in Dutchess County. And we would play at the Casper Kill Country Club, which is about 28 miles away from this facility in a town called Wappinger Falls, right next to Poughkeepsie on Route 9.
I know Wappinger Falls, yeah.
So I would bring in the club teams to play against our kids, and I would also bring in colleges. So what I was trying to do was bridge the gap from their current situation to their future. So some of them could go on and maybe play Division III basketball, play junior college basketball, if you will. And I was able to bring in schools like Rockland County Community College, Ulster County, Columbia Green, Ulster. Medgar Evers came in twice when Roy Anderson was still the athletic director there. Bard College in Red Hook, not Red Hook, Brooklyn, but Red Hook, New York, next to Rhinebeck.
Yeah, I know the area.
Over the Kingston Rhinecliff Bridge. In Bard College, Division III, their coach and I developed a good relationship. And I was able to actually push some of my guys after they served their time. There's some guys, most of the guys I had, unfortunately, were doing real time. They were doing real time, but they were talented. And it's crazy. None of them had ever played. Most of them had never played on a basketball team. So it's like they had to get incarcerated in order to play ball. So all the things that I learned playing against guys like you, being coached by Big Paul Black in the summer leagues, Reynolds at Bernard King's camp, stuff I learned from Bernard. From my brother, I was sharing this with these kids. And what I got from my coaches, I took pretty much what Coach Darryl Halloran did with us at Pace University and turned it into my Dream Team program. And then the Goshen Pride, when I went over to Goshen to secure, an administrator who had worked in Harlem Valley was there. He had asked me to do the same thing that I did at Harlem Valley with the kids in Goshen. And I just changed the name of the team and I called it Goshen Pride. And I took pride from Midwood. It's what Artie Leitner had as It was perseverance, respect, integrity, determination, and excellence. You know? So basketball is in my DNA. It just kind of came with me everywhere I went.
Right. And it's funny though. It's funny though.
The offensive and defensive, you know.
Yeah, it's funny though that for the incarcerated, it's very easy to transition and then go to a school because there's no criteria of saying if you're a felon, you can't get a college scholarship, you know. But at the same time, though, trying to get a job, that is very, very difficult. So, you know, going and getting educated would be the, you know, the easiest thing to do, and doing it through sports or another capable skill set to help them get back online, so to speak, you know. And that's great, man. That really is unbelievable, you know. And a lot of it, like you said, came from sports and also being involved in the community, you know, being involved with Richard Green and, you know, yeah, you know, and I know that growing up in Crown Heights,
organizing the social. Yeah. We had this piece that we used to do in the locker with the kids called Inner Visions. It was drug and alcohol counseling. So I asked my supervisor, he asked me to fill in for the person who would normally do it, who was a voc instructor, vocation instructor. And so I said to him, I said, hey, Mr. Telecki, I'm not a guy who used to drink and smoke and all of that stuff. I was the designated driver before the designated driver. So among my guys, as cool as I was with everybody, I wasn't that dude who was going to be on the corner or in the park smoking and getting lit like that. He said, so you didn't ever? I said, no. He said, so what was your vice? I said, we're doing it right now. He said, what? I said, life. I said, in the morning when I get up, I'm thankful from where I come from. I'm thankful for another day that I could do something good and correct some of the mistakes I had the day before.
Right.
That's how I came up. I came from a Caribbean family where I said with most Black families from the South and the Caribbean somewhere, education was always the key.
Yeah.
Like that was always part of your major part. If you're solving for X equals get an education, that's going to be your roadmap to success.
Right.
Yeah.
Take that education and apply it in the real world. It's going to be what it's going to be. So this whole thing that you want me to do, he said, well, will you at least fill in for her for today? I said, okay, fine, I will. So I'm in these like 11 kids who most of them are locked up for anything from, I'd say, loitering to double homicide.
Are you serious? Wow.
I'm supposed to kick it with them. And they all like basketball. So I'm supposed to kick it with them in regards to drug and alcohol. And I have the literature in front of me. I have them in front of me. The two lessons are supposed to do that. There's a double period. So what I did was I pulled on experiences in the neighborhood with friends of mine who did indulge in drugs and alcohol. You know, and then I would bring it back home to the Ponderosa, to the curriculum, and make it applicable. And that's how we vibe. So now he comes into me and he says, look, the kids have been talking about you all day. Can you stay with this program? I was like, what? He said, listen, we have never seen, even the YDAs at lunchtime, in the mess hall, the YDAs were saying, yo, you need to get, Coach Ashman to do this because when he's doing it, these kids are like well-behaved. Like they're listening to everything. They asked me the question. They said, how did you grow up in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, in that area by Medgar Evers College, and you ain't never been locked up?
Wow, ain't that some shit?
I was like, well, I had an older brother and an older sister, and their friends had carte blanche on my backside, just like I just told you, gentlemen, a little while ago. That my backside was, I said, my ASS was community property.
Yeah.
They said, oh man, if anybody put their hand on me. I said, you gotta understand is that no, you don't understand. I grew up with men who were men. Like men, I know we're in a very politically correct society right now.
Right.
Who were men. If they said don't do something and you did it, you won't feel the pain, the real pain.
That's it.
And exactly. And that's what I'm
talking.
Yeah. And that's what we all lived with, right, Les? I mean, and we're even like guys before us, and we could see that. We were community property, like you said, and our brothers or our dads and the people that were around, we were all there together. And the problem was that the people that strayed away from that, they would
Right.
have been a recipient for that program. But it wasn't like it wasn't a revolving door policy. We
Right.
had people that were under control. And so we all kind of stayed within the guidelines.
And so, to that, one of the kids goes, and they were all bright in their own way, right? He goes, oh, so next thing you want to tell us, coach, is that it takes a whole village to raise a child. And I was like, well, there's a whole lot of truth to that. I said, you may think it's cliche, but it's an old African proverb. I said, but I gravitate to another African proverb. They were all looking at, well, which one is that? I said, few burdens are heavy when everybody lifts. And they looked at me like, so one guy goes, yo, this nigga Coach Ashman's on some different shit. I said, what? So, yo, Coach, we know you don't like the N-word, but we know that. But I had him right there.
Yeah.
So I used basketball. That's when I said, you know what? Mr. Rascal's right. I got to start this Goshen Pride basketball team. And that's when I did at Harlem Valley, and what we did at Patient University. And not so much New York City Tech. New York City Tech was a different experience for me. I have a lot of friends and even acquaintances that I'm still cool with to this day from New York City Tech. One of them is my man, Clifton Jones. He's a member of the Page. Another one is a guy named Wendell Saunders, who y'all might know. Wendell played at Alexander Hamilton and came to New York City Tech. In my second year, he was there with us as our starting point guard. And he went on to play for Ray Haskins at Shore University. And most recently, he was the longtime head coach at Banneker High School over here on Clinton and Park Avenue here in Brooklyn. And now I think he coaches the girls team there now.
Okay.
Or, if not the girls team, the women's team there, he coaches the women's volleyball team.
Okay,
Right.
okay.
But, I developed relationships with, people from junior college, but as far as basketball, like really progressing, I learned more while I was in junior college from playing against brothers like you guys and working out with Paul Black and working out with Howie and Ted. A lot of my development from a basketball standpoint in the neighborhood came with Ted and Howie because we worked out so much together. Like when I see guys now, they go down and they miss a dunk, and after the game is over, they're talking about, yo, you see that dunk he almost made? Really? You guys are really praising a dunk that was missed. And I think about the way we used to train. I used to train my guys in the lockup the way I would train the guy, the way we would train. We used to wear 50-pound weight vests, come outside at 2 o'clock in the morning and run around 5 times, then go into 320 Park and do drills. So I didn't have steps for that they could run, but I could put them out in the big field and we can do the what I like to call functional muscle building workouts. And because we had a big field, a little hill you had to go up to get down to like the softball field area. I would put them with 30-pound dumbbells in their hands, and they would take turns doing the farmer's walk up the hill and then back down the hill with 2 weights. So I found other ways to make it applicable.
Yeah, exactly. But I just want to touch back, when you're saying about, information that you were sharing with the guys in jail and how they responded to you. And I got to tell you this, Dion, between if Joe Schmo said the exact same things that you said, they might not have listened to them, but there was something else that you brought to the table, which was who you were. Like you get people to pay attention and respond. And so you've cultivated that skill set to help them in that manner. Whereas, like I said, they might have been hearing the same message from Joe Schmo yesterday, week before, and no response and no, change in their behavior. But they heard it from somebody. There was that spark that was there because that's what you brought with you. You gave them that as well. And that allowed them to accept the info because they don't have to accept what you're telling them. But they're accepting it, And that's what you bring to the table. And you learned that at Midwood, just to let you know. But I also got to say this: we got to watch out.
But
we got to watch out though, because we're sitting here talking with a Brooklyn Tech engineer. So I don't know, man. He might.
We know. I didn't have to walk too far, but the next room, because my brother graduated from Brooklyn Tech. His senior year was the first year you guys were co-ed. So he's a Tech Knight. My brother, God rest his soul, he's a Tech Knight. You know, and I grew up on a block, just so you know, crown between Bedford and Rogers, where we had altogether about a dozen people that went to Tech. Mm-hmm. From my brother to Michael Sharp to my cousin Kwasi Mensah, his brothers, my cousins Roland and Gordon Taylor, Dwayne Nicholson, Paul Nicholson, Renee Matthews, who's 3 years younger than me, so you wouldn't know her. What year did you come out of Tech, Les?
77.
77. That might have been around the time of Michael Sharp.
And Calvin Hicks.
Kel Hicks.
Yeah, I was there with Kelvin Hicks and Wayne Mackey. Yeah.
So, Mike Mackey went to Midwood. God rest his soul. He's
right.
an ancestor.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You played, right, Eric? At Midwood?
Yeah.
You played with Kenny Clay?
Yeah, Anthony Clay.
So Kenny Clay, his little brother, Patrick, was my shooting guard.
Oh, okay. You mean Anthony Clay?
That was his name? I thought it was Kenny Clay.
Anthony Clay. Anthony Clay.
Okay. So Clay had a little brother named Patrick that played with me. Now he liked to let me go
Yeah. I understand, but I got you.
So he could shoot. He could shoot the lights out. And I remember his brother played. So that means that Anthony Clay played at New York Tech with Cal, right?
I don't know what Anthony played afterwards, though.
Yeah, he went to Tech. He went because Sammy Stern was trying to get me to come out there because of my gym teacher, Mr. Pike, who was really tight with Sammy Stern, who was their coach out at New York Tech in the island. New York Technical College, not New York City Tech, downtown Brooklyn.
You mean the gym teacher, Mr. Pike?
Mr. Pike, yep. Yeah. Mr. Pike with the curly hair. Yeah. Looked like Robin Williams.
Yes,
Mr.
I remember.
Pike, that was Mr. Pike was the dude, man. Mr. Pike always looked out for me. Even Arbuse, you remember Arbuse, the coach of football?
Mr. Arbuse, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because I wouldn't try out for football, which my parents were not going to let me play anyway, Arbuse flunked me the first semester. You remember, first semester we always get the letter grades, right? I got flunked. I got a U in gym, and I participated every day to the max. No matter what we were playing. Floor hockey, I would participate, right? I was just that type of kid. So because I didn't come out for the football team, and I wanted to, but my mother wasn't gonna let me play, he flunked me. Mr. Pike.
That was a retaliation. Well, you think that was a retaliation?
Retaliation. Yeah. So I went to Mr. Pike, told him the situation was, he went to Arbuse, said, look, you can't be flunking the kid because he just want to try out for the football team. You just can't. That's just outright, you're just discriminating against the kid.
Yeah.
You can't. He said, and besides, he wants to play, but his mother won't let him play. So how you flunking him for something that's not even his decision? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not like he's not participating. He participates, he helps everything, he helps put away equipment, all of that stuff. What are you doing? Kind of thing. But the equity I was saying that I had that I didn't know that I had, fellas, with the kids who were our residents in the lockup, is that I had to drive 80 miles each way for my commute. In the morning time, I would get up at 4, leave at 5, get there by 6:30. My shift didn't start, my tour didn't start till like pretty much 8 o'clock. I would get there, I would already have my gear on to work out. I would work out, shower, go up for the morning briefing, see what the temperature is of the facility, so to speak, the climate is, and meet with the education department, see what's what. The kids had a huge respect for the fact that I was coming from Pines, Brooklyn, every day, 5 days a week, 80 miles each way. That meant something to them when some of them were, and like I said, the majority of the kids we had looked like the three of us. Some of them came from as close as 10 minutes away in Middletown, New York. We were in Goshen at that time, But Middletown, New York, which is, there's a huge Black population, some of them came from Middletown and they couldn't get a visit from their family. They lived 10 minutes away.
Wow.
Here's a guy who's coming to work from 80 miles away, round trip, and then on the way home, let's see, the drive in the morning was about an hour and a half. Coming home, it could be anywhere from 2 hours to 2.5, maybe 3 hours. You don't know what you're going to hit when you get to the other side of the George Washington Bridge. Or once you get down by the city, you don't know when it comes to the Major Deegan, or it comes to the Henry Hudson, or it comes to the FDR Drive.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what you're going to hit in terms of traffic.
Yeah. But the funny thing is, them kids are sitting back and they're watching and said, somebody doesn't go and do that for the wrong reasons. This guy's not traveling 80 miles.
Exactly.
Just to BS me,
Not just a paycheck.
Yeah, I mean, a paycheck can't be that good, but they pay attention just like anybody else. Don't discount the fact that they're capable of paying attention and seeing and making changes in their lives. They're extremely capable. They just have to believe that they can, and then they need that platform to make that change. You can't make that change with an empty plate. Plate's got to have something in it, man.
Right.
Some cases is jewels, some cases education, some is maybe it's a skill set that you have, but you got to get that plate with some meat and bones in there, and that's what you brought to them.
So I was able to use my neighborhood equity. I was able to use the basketball equity that came out of that, and I was able to use my commuting equity, to really. And then one day I hit them with, they were calling, one day they walked in, I was very upset with them. They were calling one of our coworkers an Uncle Tom. And pretty much just because he was doing his job according to his tasks and standards. He was a stickler for the tasks and standards. So I'm sitting around the table, I'm talking to him, and I said, first of all, I don't think you all are trying to insult him. And if you're trying to insult him, calling him an Uncle Tom is not really an insult if you really know who Uncle Tom was. And they were like, Coach, what are you talking about? You tripping? I said, I'm not. I said, who you really want to call him is a Sambo. I said, because Sambo was a sellout. Uncle Tom was actually a good person who would put, extra cotton into the bags of, the other enslaved people. He wouldn't hit Black women. He wasn't about that. And then he eventually killed his enslaver, and got his freedom, and then freed his family. And he went up to Nova Scotia, Canada, and had land and became a really good businessman.
That's why you got to know the history.
Yeah.
Set it straight.
I said, on top of that, I said, you should do some reading. If you need some help, we can do that. And that sparked a book club, that we had.
Wow. Nice.
So I said, you got to read the book Uncle Tom's Cabin by Harry Stone. I said, and then you will understand that Sambo was the enslaved person that followed Simon Legree, the plantation owner, across the plantation, and literally said, I'll whoop him, boss. I'll whoop him, boss. All right. That's who you think is Uncle Tom, but it's not how history got that twisted, because so about people, even those that we hold in high esteem, get that wrong. Yeah. But you got to read. That's how come reading is important. It will give you things in proper context if you read for comprehension. I said, and if you want to know who the real sellout is, you're selling yourselves out because you did something that ran them up with the law, and you lost your freedom, because enslavement is not totally abolished. If you go into your social science class with Mr. Nuara and ask him to pull up the 13th Amendment, and this is before the documentary 13th came out, before we even knew who Ava DuVernay was. This is all the way back in 2004. So I'm like, read it, and you'll see the subcategory will say that there is no enslavement anymore, except in the case of due process. And what's due process? There's no more servitude except in the case of due process. Due process is when you run them up with the law and you get convicted. And then you're in prison, you give up your freedom.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
And when you
that was some deep stuff, man.
And when you put yourself in that position,
Yeah,
Right.
you got to, you know, when you really take a look at it, when you really take a look at it, I said you can look at how many guys jerk themselves out of a basketball career because they ran them up with the law. Look what John Moran is doing now. Fast forward from 2004 to today,
Right.
2023.
Come on, man.
Look what John's doing, and all because not because he's really that way, just because he wants to have that street credibility.
Right.
You don't get street credibility by flossing. You get street credibility by putting in some kind of work. We put in work. The reason why we get the respect from people where we grew up is because we chose to go the way that we chose to go, and we really went that way.
Right.
That's we know who went the other way. They really went that other way.
Yeah. And that's right. He went in that other direction. And
those guys really went that way. John's just flossing.
Yeah.
He's not even really going that way.
Yeah. And it's I would look at it a little bit differently. He was like one of the chickadees in the nest, and he didn't jump out and follow. He fell out there. And and that's why you had, like you said, the Lacey's and the Festuses that were around that kept you in line, but you learned from them. And I always use guys as an example, like Johnny Green, Joe Bond and them, because they're a little bit older than us, right? And then Lacey, that's my brother's age group. Is Lacey? That's one of the boys, and those guys, man, they kept me in line, man.
Joe Bond was with my brother all the time. My brother used to live in Sales.
They kept us all in line. But we looked up to these guys, though, man. These guys were like good, but they're good men. And I mean, without even giving any more description, they're good men. And there's one dude that we're trying to get on the show now, lived next door to Les Franklin, right, Les?
Yeah, Franklin Tummins. Yep.
Yeah. I must know him by face then.
Yeah. And it's the older Wingate contingent of men. And even the gangster dudes were good guys.
Yeah. And I came up like, because of where I live, I guess, crown between Bedford and Rogers, right? I'm claimed by Lefferts Park and I'm claimed by 320 Park, because a part of my life is spent in Lefferts Park almost every day. Another part of my life was spent, a big part of it was spent, mostly when I was in college, in 320 Park. But then again, my next to last year in Pace University, over the summer, I spent a lot of time, because the run was still okay, in Lefferts Park.
Right.
So, and in for Nero, I was down in Wingate Park, mostly for the tournament. I didn't really play a lot of pickup in Wingate. I really played the tournament games in Wingate.
Mm-hmm.
What made me go to Wingate a little bit more was if I knew we had a game coming up, just to get accustomed to the court a bit more familiar with the surrounding, I would go down there during the week and shoot around.
Yeah. Well, that was our home, though, man. That's Wingate.
Yeah.
And Les was the commissioner.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
But how many years, Les? How many years was that for you as the commissioner?
Like 4 years during the Nero tournament. Yeah.
And player commissioner.
Yeah.
Like Mr. the Bill Russell of Wingate.
Well, I got two short stories to tell you that you get a kick out. One is about you, Eric. Paul Black. Unless, do you remember Paul Black?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Big Paul, about your complexion. Actually, y'all look like y'all could be related, to be honest.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Paul used to always tell me when I was 16, come on, Dion, get some arc on the set. You got to shoot like Eric Short. Yeah. What the fuck is Eric Short? And I said, oh, Eric,
Well, yeah, man.
Because I knew who you were because of Millwood High School.
Right.
Patrick Clay used to talk about you and his brother and Mike Mackey. And there was who was the other guy that played, I think, a little bit before you got, or maybe y'all crossed. Craig Smoke, was it?
Yeah, Craig was before, right.
Yeah, Craig was before you guys. Yeah, Patrick used to talk about Craig Smoke. So I'm like, okay, cool. And now Paul is talking about, like, who is this guy, Eric Short? And I was like, oh, Eric Short. Remember, Eric the okay, got it. LIU, Millwood, all right, got it. Right, and you, Les, Paul used to always talk about this big guy, Les Miller. I went for offensive rebound, and you did something a lot of guys didn't do. You boxed me out. But the way you boxed me out, your arms went up like this, and your elbow caught me right in the chest. Paul called timeout, and because y'all went down and scored. I mean, yeah, y'all went down and scored because I was trying to get an offensive rebound, and he looked at me, Dion, you know who fucking Les Miller is now?
No, that's funny. That's funny.
He sound like, he used to talk and sound like Gil Reynolds.
Yeah.
Oh, man. You know who Big Les is now? It's like,
it's funny because
I know who he is.
But when you master a skill set like that, when you're younger, the older you get, it gets so easy to do it, and it's just a natural thing. And that's, I mean, I grew up with this guy, man, like kindergarten, basically. So just knowing the people that taught us and the people that taught you, and through that whole thing, it's also part of that village. Those people gave us skill sets in certain things, and it was cross-reference. That's why Paul had that opinion of us, and we might have had an opinion of somebody else. And it's like it's a intertwined, like cell structure. All of us, and we all impacted each other in such a way. And plus, you add on the years. When we're talking 50 years ago, that is unmatched by anything that I can think of in society. Is the New York, Brooklyn, whatever you want to call it, that camaraderie that exists. There's nothing in our society that, other than a fraternity or sorority, that holds true to this. Nothing.
But basketball that's the reason I'm a member of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, right? Incorporated. First recognized fraternity for undergraduate Black men, right? We're not technically the first because there was a iota group, not to be confused with the iotas that are there now, that are the brown and gold. That was there was an iota group prior to them in 1903 that was on the campus of Indiana University, same Indiana where Bobby Knight would coach, right?
Okay.
And they don't get the credit that they should get, actually, because after all of their members that were in school at the time graduated, they didn't stay with it. Alpha came about in fall of 1906 and quickly went from a social group to a study group to a fraternity in a period of about 8 weeks. In the fall of 1906. The same year that the Armory here at Bedford and Union opened up was the year Alpha started up on the campus of Cornell University in New York. And
so the movement was real.
The movement was real, and they had to stay in power. They were about it, and they connected with different African symbols to help identify the fraternity, and they're the only one that does that. So, but you talked about mastering skill set, right, Eric? When I signed my letter of intent to go to Pace University, Richard Green was Paul Black, who were like extensions of my big brother, and very tight with him. Richard let Mr. Nero know. Mr. Nero had just happened to pop by the collective one day because, he was always, he was, that neighborhood. I don't say mentor, I say Jegna. Jegna is the term, the African and the Ethiopian term for that person who's like a counselor that helps guide you. Mentor actually has a negative stigma attached to it that has to do with abuse of Ulysses' son by Mentor when he went off to the Trojan War. So I stay away from that. But he let Nero know that, hey, Dion just signed. He decided he's going to go to university. Mr. called dad and said, look, Donald, if Dion is going to be home later on, let him know that I want to stop by and tell him to put on a pair of slacks, a nice pair of shoes, and a nice shirt. I want to take him somewhere. So when I got home from my workout, dad let me know. I was like, really? I said, okay. I was like, Mr. Nero could have just called me, at that point in my life, he just called me directly, right? On the other line, so in the house, right? So there was my mother had a business line and my father had like the regular landline for the house, but we also use my mother's line as like our line for my brother and my sister. So, but he called dad, spoke to dad, and dad relayed the message to me. So I got dressed, and Mr. Nero, like clockwork, showed up. He said to be ready at 6 o'clock. No, 7 o'clock, I'm sorry. And he picked me up in that, what was that red, the red vehicle he had, that red sedan that he had. And we drove to Flatbush and Myrtle. There was a place called Studio 243. Okay. It was a night spot that was above what used to be an Oldsmobile dealer, right there in the corner of Myrtle and Flatbush and Myrtle Extension. And he took me in, we sat down, he ordered some barbecue chicken, some, collard greens, mac and cheese, and candied yams. And we had a tall glass of cranberry juice, right? We both ate the same thing. And all of a sudden I see these men come, these older men, like close to his age, coming in as we're sitting there. And it's a band. I thought it was a band. It wasn't really a band, but it was jazz musicians. It was Dizzy Gillespie, it was Max Roach, and a whole bunch of these other guys, and then even a couple of the younger guys like Najee Allen Gums, who also is an ancestor now. And I said, Mr. Nero, are we here for a performance or are we here to eat? He said, no, we're gonna have something to eat, but I want you to see what these men are doing. I said, oh, they're gonna perform. I said, no. He said, they're here to jam. They're gonna go through their whole regimen and then they're gonna go out and gig. He said, so I want you to see how these men work on their skill set. That's what you were talking about, mastering the skill set, Eric. Was showing me how to, from another discipline, how over in this discipline they do it and how I need to do it.
Right.
Wow, nice.
It's one thing to get the scholarship. Now the other thing is to go produce.
Right.
You know, make it happen. Go in between, go make it, and it's gonna happen. It's gonna be those times when you're practicing. How many times do we watch guys practice and they only doing stuff they do good?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Only working on the assets of their game and not the liabilities of their game. You can only go right, or you lefty, you can only go left. You know that if you take one dribble to the left, you're probably gonna spin back and go right.
And go back right. Yep.
Yeah. You're a predictable athlete.
Very predictable. We know if you 2 dribbles going to the right and you're left-handed, you're probably gonna pull up for a jump shot, or spin. We kind of figure you out after a while.
Yeah, and it's funny because that's in any, like you said, every discipline, because even taking it's like, hey, give me the math test, but only give me like the addition and subtraction questions, don't give me no division, and it's like, but that's the fear of trying to address in practice time, study time, your inabilities in certain things in your life. But that means you're not what they consider true definition. You're not a student then. And being a student of the game means that you're open to everything because you want to learn. It's like playing chess. You have to learn all aspects of what those pieces do. And if you don't know what everything does but a rook, if you don't know what the rook does, it's going to sit there, and you'll get abused, So the concepts that you've experienced, I'm kind of surprised about Nero, because I didn't know he was that, kind of like diverse in things.
Yeah. Well, got to remember that Mr. Nero, before he was doing this thing down here, he was up in Harlem doing a whole lot of programs up there. He used to have, matter of fact, he showed me a picture. You ready for this? And I wish I got to talk to Dante when I see him and see if he has it. He showed me a picture of Kelvin Hicks's mother, Lois Hicks, who sat on the youth committee when I ended up, after I stopped playing ball, up in Syracuse, I ended up at the Crown Service Center and then at Community Board 9 as a youth coordinator. Paul Black moved to Florida, to Miami. And I ended up getting the position that I ended up being his successor. And I knew those people at Board 9 from the time I was 16 years old, helping to stuff envelopes and stuff like that. Howie, Ted, and myself would go in here, give us some pizza, some Chinese food, and we would help him get that stuff together and get the messages out to correspondence out to the board members. So they watched me grow up pretty much from the time I was 15, 16 years old. Mm-hmm. And I ended up working there. And Paul, Mr. Nero, Mrs. Hicks, Calvin's mother, sat on the youth committee at Board 9. So I had a lot of dealings with Mrs. Hicks. Yeah. And then Mr. Nero one day comes by to see me, and we go sit down and eat lunch, and he pulls out a picture of Mrs. Hicks playing basketball at the old Harlem YMCA, on donkeys. Mm. He had women playing basketball on donkeys at the Harlem Y.
Wow. 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 I knew that he coached Kelvin's mom because he coached my father.
There you go. He was like our Holcomb Rucker, basically. Yeah.
Are you serious? Yeah. Like, you did tell me that once before. I didn't remember that.
Matter of fact, the first time I saw Mr. Nero, right, I was in Wall Bounds. Remember, Wall Bounds was across from Ebbets Field?
Yes, that's right.
Avenue. Right. So I'm in there one day, and he looks at me and said, "Hey, you play basketball?" I said, "Yeah, you know." He said, "Well, I got this tournament at that time. We're doing over at 320."
Yep.
And he said, "So what's your name?" I said, Leslie Miller. And he said, "Oh." He said, "Who's your father?" I said, "Ernest Miller." He said, "I used to coach your father." I said, "Get the fuck out of here."
Nero. Yep, he's like that. He was just. I met Mr. Nero in 6th grade. I was walking into the park in the morning for school, and I was palming the basketball in 6th grade. I was palming the ball. You know, the rubber outdoor Spalding basketballs.
Right.
I was palming the ball, but I was walking like as if I was walking with the ball, like how I would just walk with the bottle in my hand. Like I was palming, like it was no big deal. It looked like I was palming it and showing everybody I could palm the ball. I was just walking with the ball, my bag over my shoulder, and I'm walking with the ball, just walking, and I'm palming it, not holding it. And he was like, "Young man, can you do that with a real basketball?" I said, "What do you mean, sir?" He said, "Can you palm like a real basketball?" I was like, "I think so. I mean, I always palm a basketball." And he said, "Okay, you get out at what, 3 o'clock?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Okay, meet me right here after school." So he had a McGregor X10L, and I palmed it. That man never let me out of his sights after that. Never let me out of his sights after that.
Yeah, Mr. Nero. Yeah, Mr. Nero was Nero was a special guy, man. I mean, I've met him, man. Like you said, 320 in his tournaments, and ever since then but that's when you meet the people in the community. Back then, there were people there like Chris West and those guys, Joe Bond, and in the older contingent. So and then you have the circle becomes bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. You know, then he starts doing stuff in Wingate. So, but you never know that. I didn't know the man. That's my point, you know. And
yeah.
And he was, and then Richard Green kind of took over when he moved everything down to Wingate, and Richard Green took over at 320, and Richard just kind of adopted me. And then Richard didn't realize that I was Dwayne's brother, Big Dwayne from Crown Street's little brother. Made it even, more of a synergy. Yeah, and then when I got to high school, I would get off the bus, the 49. I was the first 2 years of high school, well, first year and a half of high school, I took the 49 and got off at Farragut and Flatbush. I would come back on the 49 and get off at the corner of Crown Street and Washington Avenue, right by what was St. Ignatius Church. And then I would go to the pool because my brother ran the pool at Medgar Evans. We ran the aquatics program.
Okay.
And I had school books, textbooks, and everything. Remember those homework assignment sheets they used to give us, Eric, in high school, where you had homework 1, homework 2, homework 3, and I had all my stuff in a locker in his office down at the pool. So I would go do my homework, then I had to swim a certain amount of laps, then take a shower, and he would feed me to Tony Martin, who was then basketball coach at Medgar Evans, and the only kid that was allowed to go work out with the team. So I was, even though I wasn't allowed to play high school basketball at the time, I was still basketball in because I was with Tony, I was the guys on the team. They pretty much fed me to, that's when he had like Brian Mariner and Bo Keene, Divine, all them guys that, you know, came from Brownsville, Queens, and, you know, some other guys from Brooklyn. And them guys used to just beat up on me, man. Beat up. And Stan Lowman used to work, God rest his soul. Big
Stan. Stan.
Yeah.
Me out, man. So
I'm still trying to get over you saying St. Ignatius, Les.
Yeah, St. Ignatius. Yeah, St. Ignatius. I mean, Mr. Riley. Are you all familiar with Tom Riley?
Probably if I seen him. Probably if I seen him.
Tom Riley is a white Irish dude who was a school teacher at IS 320 that lives like 5 houses away from me. He knew my parents. He knew my parents before they even conceived me. My parents moved here in '62. He got here in '55, the year the Dodgers won the World Series at Ebbets Field. And my brother grew up playing. My brother, he used to run the program at St. Ignatius in the hall where they would play ball. Like Tony Burrell, Jeff Sinkler, Miguel, Lou Asness, Roddy Hill, my brother Dwayne Ashman, Joe Murphy. All these guys used to play right up here. All those guys that played at Lafayette, they all used to play up here at the hall because Mr. Riley would have them there on Sunday evenings at 7 o'clock. And myself and Tony Burrell's brother, Mike Burrell, we were the only 2 guys, young guys, that were allowed to come in and watch the big guys play.
Wow. Okay.
Good old Tony
to
Burrell.
Play on Saturday mornings. Tony Burrell, yeah. Matter of fact, Tony played at LIU with you guys, right?
No, Tony, but he went to school there. He didn't play.
Okay.
He wasn't playing. He went to school there.
His brother and Mike and I, we became tight from 3rd grade, and we used to play on Saturday mornings. And those big guys that would play on Sunday night, Sunday evening, they would rep our games. And we were shirts and skins back then. If you didn't want to lose because you were skins next week in that cold gym.
Yeah, right.
With wool socks on.
With wool socks on, drop it to your ankles. Okay.
Yeah.
That's how we came up.
Right.
Saturday morning, this neighborhood for us was St. Ignatius, get up, have a little something to eat, St. Ignatius, back home, Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids, a little bit of football, clean up, eat dinner, skating rink with the bigger kids on the block, you know, to look out for you. And then that evening, you know, that was Saturday. And sometimes the bowling alley. And we'd be in the bowl because some of the guys were in the Bedford Bowling Alley Junior League.
Bedford Bowl. Yeah, Bedford Bowl. Yeah.
Those of us who didn't bowl, we would go watch our friends that did bowl and play pinball. Go figure that, pinball, right?
Yeah.
We didn't age, but I was playing pinball.
Right.
And watch the basketball games at the lunch counter. If you had $2 or $3, you felt like you were rich. You get a burger and some fries and a little Coke, and watch the game on the black and white TV that Pops used to have up there, perched up there. Yeah.
But yo, I want to switch something up, man. I want to ask you about your Jamaican heritage, man.
Yeah. Yes.
Tell me about that, man.
All right. So my mom and dad, dad comes from St. Elizabeth. Mom comes from the parish of St. Mary. Dad came here on a student visa in about 48. Graduated 48. He came and went to St. Augustine College, now University in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Okay.
Scholarship for chemistry. That's what he wanted to do. He wanted to be a scientist. And he became a scientist. He graduated, pledged Alpha and everything. That's something that, by the way, that's something that all the Black guys did back then, is that they saw it as a way to unify. It didn't matter if you were Black and grew up down south, or Black grew up north, or Black came from the Caribbean, Panama, or one of the countries on the African continent. You were Black, this is what we did. You were gonna go to one of the Black fraternities, right? And they all got along. All right, cool. Then Dad comes here to stay with his Aunt Maud on McDonough Street in Bed-Stuy to go to Fordham University, got a scholarship to go to Fordham to do his master's and his doctorate. All right. My mother came here because of my grandmom. My grandmom came for work to set up a better way of life. My grandmother came in right around, I want to say 4:45, and she was living in Harlem, working for a white lady. My grandmother already knew. She came here knowing how to do hair, and she didn't know the business of doing hair. So what she did was she worked with this white lady, and my grandfather had a cousin that found out that they were there. My grandfather actually came from Antigua, but getting work in Jamaica, he met my grandmother. All right. So they left my mother with some of my granddaughters. My mother had about four sisters, and she left it with them. And then she came here to get things set up. And it was going to take few years, right? And when my grandfather's cousin found out that they were here, they said, look, why don't you come stay with me, and you can have the ground floor of the brownstone, and all you have to do is bring groceries in every week, and you can save that money up, right, that you would be paying for rent, right? Cool. My grandmother one day walking up the street realizes there's a little storefront for rent, little alcove of a storefront for rent. So she gets to the top of the hill, she drops a penny by the Franklin Avenue train station into the payphone. She puts a penny into the payphone, calls a Jew man, and sets up a meeting with him. And then she rents out that space as her beauty salon, right?
Wow.
She's only open from Tuesday. She's open Tuesday to like Saturday. She's not open on Sunday, and she's only open for like to get ready for the week of work on Monday. If you remember when we were little, they had something called the Monday Blue Laws. It's still in effect now, where service businesses were open, but not to do business. They were just open to get themselves ready, because Sunday is Sunday, and Monday was the day you needed to prep for. And then she literally did not tell the lady she was working for up in Harlem what she was doing, and stayed working for that lady. She put 4 chairs in that place, and she put 4 chairs in there, and 1, 2, 3 was she rented out, and the 4th chair was hers. And she was there from like 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock, and the other women were there from like about 8 o'clock to roughly about 5 o'clock. And then on the weekend, she would only work from 10 to 2 in her own spot. And then she saved up enough money, $6,000, and bought the brownstone on Park Place, where my sister lives right now.
Wow.
$6,000.
Wow.
Right? Growing up, as my parents met at like my grandmother's parlor floor, that ground floor that you walk in on with the kitchen and leads to the backyard, that would be the spot that everybody would congregate at every Friday and Saturday after they closed down shop. The women would cook the food, the men would bring all the drinks, whether it's soft drinks, liquor, whatever. If you wanted to smoke, you can have a smoke, but you got to go out in the backyard. There's no smoking in the front of the house. There's no smoking in the house. You go outside. And that's how they would, they developed their little support group. Their foundation was like that. All the people that would come and respect the business and hang out and everything was the people who would come by after everything shut down. And that's how they would hang out and stay out of trouble, and how they would plan, and they would, everybody like wanted to like save money, and they would talk about things and socialize, have a good time, and help each other. That's how they did it. And it will always take us back when we came along. Now, when my brother came along in 54, my sister in 56, and me in 64, it was like they always made sure that we understood the roots, and they would take us back to Jamaica. So in Jamaica, I was always like along Portland Road, Ligony Terrace, Havendale, in Ochi, in not Ochi, but in Montego Bay, up on Mangawa and airport. So I was always going to visit my cousins. There was always that connection, that synergy that was there. So getting the upbringing that was in America, in Brooklyn, in the village of Crown Heights. But when you stepped inside 171 Crown, it was like Little Kingston.
Yeah, man. Little Kingston.
About Aki and Sawfish and
yes, sir.
Yeah, man. So it was I mean, my dad, he knew, because of his work that he did and his research that he did in biochemistry, he knew about concussion syndrome. That's why they wouldn't let me play football.
Once you play football, yeah.
We called it getting our bell rung. right? Or you got a stinger, right?
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know that it was like if you had a ball in this water and you shake it up, that's what was happening to your head, but you got blocked,
At whatever age.
At whatever
age. Yeah. And that's funny thing, man. I remember this is a long time ago, man. I went out for a football team at Grace Church on Bedford and like Maple Less. That's where Grace was, right? And that's where we used to practice. I don't know where I can't remember where I got my helmet and stuff from, but somebody ran across the middle, caught the ball. I tagged him tagged him. He went down. And after that, he wasn't moving. And I started crying, man. I took my helmet off, the shoulder pads, and I left. And I never saw the helmet or the shoulder pads ever again. And I quit because it's like, I hurt somebody, man. And so that sport, you have to be in acceptance to knowing that you could hurt a person, possibly.
Right.
And they say a kid at 8 years old, when he's hit by a kid that's 8 years old, it's the same level of impact that the body has to go through as when Lawrence Taylor is hitting another professional football player. Mm-hmm. The measurement of the impact and everything when it comes to sports science is equal of a pressure and response to the body as it would be if a professional hit a kid and hit a person. And that child cannot sustain that hit. That's why the NFL would always not let underclassmen go to the NFL because they wanted their bodies to develop to assumingly handle it better. But that was a smoke screen, because guys are getting hurt.
The only person I really remember growing up that went to the NFL early, I mean, there was several of them, but the one that stands out to most, you're probably gonna laugh when I say it, but it was Herschel Walker, left in his sophomore year from Georgia.
Yeah.
That's the only person I can remember. But he was a physical specimen. So
right, exactly. And they accepted that as him being a specimen. Now look at him now. I don't know.
Yeah, he's still a physical specimen of a different kind.
Yeah, exactly.
He's still a physical specimen. Okay.
Yeah. And but the impacts were having an impact on his brain. And and it's sad. And you even look at anybody, Mike Tyson, boxers, you get constantly hit in the head. I mean, what do you think is going to happen? I'm not really sure. If you don't understand, then you shouldn't be allowed to play the sport in the first place. I don't care how good you are. If you think your body you could be a skydiver and experience landing without the parachute opening, you're only going to have that issue once. Because you're going to be done thereafter. And
but E, man, I seen you dunk a few people, man, that was kind of like, damn, that's like a big. I see you dunk a few people, E, that's like, okay, my man just got a total hit to the head, man.
Yeah, and maybe that was a concussion as well,
Yeah, exactly.
But our sport, Les, is not. It's not as physical as people would think it is. I mean, there is contact, but when you're playing it the right way and being very physical, the things you do I don't think that they hurt players, because you should be capable of handling that kind of contact. I could be wrong.
No,
you'll tell me.
I disagree, though, man. I disagree, man. I think our sport is even more physical because there's no protection and it's man on man, right? But you still gotta respect the game. Okay. The fact is that you don't want to hit nobody. Anything above the neck is out of bounds. Anything below the waist is out of bounds. Anything in between is fair game. So, D, when you said I hit you in the chest, that's fair game, man. You know what I mean?
All you did was box me out. I just wasn't prepared for
it. Yeah, exactly, man. But to me, man, when I'm in my best games, man, if nobody hit me during the game, man, it's like I didn't even play.
Right.
You know what I mean? I need to get hit. I need to feel physical. I need to sweat. I need to say, damn, that was a good hit, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, even now I'll be 59 in July, right? It's crazy because we just played a game the other day and we won by like 21 points. And I knew I played because my body felt it. Right. I came home. I actually took an ice bath. I got an ice bath because we're athletes. You know, we know how to take care of ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I took care of myself. And then Ted called me later that evening to see how I was feeling. I said, yo, Ted, I'm good, man. I did my ice bath and everything. I'm good. I'm about to eat something. You know, and just some guys, they come back with pains and aches from, you know, because of the physicality, because we're not playing above the rim anymore. Everything is below the rim. If anybody is dunking in 50 and over, it's because they're like 6'8", 6'9". You know, there's a couple guys that are, you know, even what's his name comes out. I haven't seen him yet, but I know he plays with the Morgan brothers, Bruce and Carlos. Charles Smith used to play for the Knicks.
Okay, yeah. Charles is like 6'11".
Yeah, he's still. I'm sure he's still dunking. I haven't seen him, but I'm sure he's still dunking. I've seen a guy, I forget his name, from Queens. That's about 6'9". Saw him dunk once or twice in a game. And, you know, it's physical. That physicality is there. And sometimes you don't realize when you're posting somebody up and you put that boom right into their chest, they're feeling that.
Yeah.
Especially when they go home and they clean up and they go to sleep and they get up the next morning.
Right. Yeah, and plus, they're feeling that every time down the court.
Aches all over your body, places you never had before.
Yeah. Because in playing the game, you have to be able to tolerate it. As well. It's like you can't react to having that elbow at your chest. You have to deal with that punishment that you're dealing with. But that's what makes the game what it is. That's that, you know,
and like let's say
of the game. Either. Yeah, you know, and there's the other aspects of just the running, you know. And I'm not that banging guy, man. I'm the guy that's moving. I'm moving around, so your legs wear out on you, man. And that's when you know, you default yourself, man. You know, but and I'm surprised you said Carlos and Bruce are still playing.
Oh yeah, matter of fact, I'm gonna call Cliff a little bit after we do this because Cliff is not playing. Cliff is like coaching over in like Paraguay and some other places through the NBA, right? And I texted him already because I said, I asked Bruce when I was leaving, he was coming in for his game, and Los came in a little bit after him. And I said, yo, Bruce, what's good, man? How you guys doing? You know, what's up with how's Cliff doing? Because Cliff was up when we, sorry, Eric, but when we bumped you guys, our first year in Nickelodeon, when you were with Steve Lewis, and we bumped you guys in the playoffs to go to the championship, and we lost to Flatbush, on that team with us.
Yeah, I know.
Cliff was part of that team with us.
Thanks for reminding me that.
I just have to put that one in there. Look, I took so many L's to you guys growing up, man. I have to get one in, you know.
Listen. So who was on that Flatbush team y'all lost to?
Oh, that's a good question. There was a guy who was real stocky, like a Marine type dude.
George, you talking about?
Bodybuilder that was coached at FDR at the time. He was a coach at FDR High School.
Okay.
And he was real stocky, about 5 foot, no taller than 5'9".
Okay, I thought you were talking about somebody else. Okay.
And the two brothers that were, because they had the tan t-shirts that year. Then there was another brother, two Caribbean dudes. They were brothers. They were biological brothers. And they were real slim.
The Grady brothers.
But they were built like track and field athletes. They could just run.
The Grady brothers, man.
Grady brothers were on that team too. Yeah. The Grady brothers, Dave and Keith were on that team. Yeah, okay. Dave and Keith.
But was Mark coaching that team?
I don't remember who coached
them. Mark. That's Mark's team.
And then your team was you and Steve. I think you had Keith Williams on your team, right?
No, Keith was on Flatbush, as a matter of fact.
Keith was on Flatbush?
Yeah. Okay. And we had Festus.
Right. And you had my man, Charlie Wickfall.
Right.
Big Charlie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Because everybody.
But Les, I think that was Mark's team, Les.
But see, I don't remember many Flatbush teams that I wasn't on, so that's what I was asking.
Yeah, that's that. Remember the crew from the 30 and over? Mark, you know that Mark that coached us.
Yeah. And then
it was his team.
One of those guards, the point guard, the two guys I said were brothers, I think that one of them ended up being an assistant coach at when New York City Tech still had their basketball team downtown Brooklyn, when the guy coached Penn, Penn, he was the coach, and one of those guys was assistant coach. I was trying to get them to come in to play against my guys in the lockup. We weren't able to work it out, but when I walked in, Penn didn't know who I was, but the other brother knew who I was.
Right.
Oh, Dion, what's up, man? You know, I just can't remember his name right now.
Right. And so what do you? So the 50 and over is at the BRC, or is it at the? So what's going at the Owens location?
Well, okay. So normally a BRC is where you would have 50 and over. But I think there's something going on with the gym right now. I think there's some kind of construction or rehab upgrade is going on with the gym.
Right.
So Glenn has everything operating at the Betty Shabazz School in Brownsville, which is just off of Pitkin on Watkins.
Right. Okay.
Literally right across the street from Howard Houses. The project is right there, and adjacent to the school is the fire station. And then at the opposite corner is a park, and then right next to that park is a branch of the New York Public Library. So it's all like right there in that little.
So what's going on in the Major Owens location?
All right, so Major Owens Health and Wellness and Community Center is the team that's, it's funny because I feel like that should be Christ you collected there, but you have New Heights, which is the AAU team. You have Global Sports, which handles the soccer field, the mixed use field for soccer, like soccer and well, you could do so much on that field, but it's mostly soccer and lacrosse. You have the boys club is there, which manages the facility itself. And then you have Imagine Swim. And then you have a number of operators who are nonprofits, 501c3s that are in there, like If I Tell You, the James Davis Foundation. You have the Caribbean Carnival Association and several other. DigiGirl is in there teaching the kids how to code and everything. Trying to bring a 50 and over or 45 and over league there. I'm talking to a frat brother of mine who's the commissioner of DYCD. I've had him come through for it. I sit on the advisory committee there.
Okay.
I should have mentioned. It's an advisory. I was one of. I want to bring in 45 or 50 and over basketball, but I want to have some components with it. I just don't want to usher out basketball. I want brothers to come in who are going to be playing, and we're going to have testing, like health testing for them. So colon cancer, hypertension, because we have health challenges and we're not 25 years old anymore, right?
Right.
I'm concerned about that for us. Also concerned about knowing your rights, how to handle yourself when being stopped by the police, controlling conflict. And then there's some other little celebrations I'd like to throw in there, just for our, pertaining to our culture as Black people of African descent in this country. So I formulated it, and then I want to do something for the young kids where we have the guys in our group facilitating skills and drills for the young kids in the neighborhood. And
how many courts they have in that place?
There's 3 courts. There's 3 big full courts in there.
We gotta damn we have to talk to you offline, right, Les? Serious business.
100%.
Yeah, I'm serious, man.
And we've done some things, and I wanted the brother who I traveled to Egypt with, Brother Browder, Khalid Green brought him in to do a piece, and he didn't know that I knew Brother Browder, and I had traveled with Brother Browder twice to on ancient Kemetic study tours. And so Khalid is the former Assemblyman Roger Green's son, and Khalid is doing a lot. He's like
Khalid is Roger Green's son. He's Roger Green's son.
Short Khalid, that coaches with New Heights.
Yeah,
that's Roger Green's little boy, Khalid, all grown up.
Holy smokes, man! I've been away too long, man.
No, I didn't realize at first. I hadn't realized it until Joe Coelho, who's the chair of the advisory committee. He said, "Yo, D, He said, you know who that is, right? He said, that's Khalid. I said, Roger's son Khalid? Because I knew Khalid from when I was a youth coordinator at Board 9, but he was a little guy at the time.
Right.
Like a freshman in high school.
Yeah, exactly.
He's a little guy. But now he's all grown up. He's a Morehouse graduate, and he's doing a lot of really good work with New Heights. Although I think he should be doing what he's doing with his own organization.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because them white folks, well, you know, let me not say that. Let me my Pan-Africanist views are about to come out. So
I'm gonna bring out my eraser. Let me erase that.
And it was funny because we all have Caribbean roots. Pan-Africanism came out of the Caribbean, came out of Trinidad and Barbados and Jamaica. So, you know, everybody talks about Malcolm and everybody talks about Marcus Garvey, but you got to go back before them to people like Robert Love and people like
sir.
Harrison, who literally laid the groundwork for somebody to be motivated like a Marcus Garvey.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the beginnings are never what they claim to be because people leave out pertinent things and and the shoulders that people stand on, they didn't just magically start just out of the clear blue. There's shoulders and shoulders and shoulders and shoulders. Yep. You know, and if you disregard that and in a total sense, it messes up the history of it all. You take away the power of the history of it all.
And speaking, and to that point, I would not be here talking to you guys, right? Chopping it up like this. I wouldn't have played against you guys. I wouldn't have played at New York City Tech or University if it was, and Midway High School, my senior year, that's it, if it wasn't for my Uncle Howard, like I have mentioned to you before, Eric. If it wasn't for Uncle Howard, I stand on his shoulders when it comes to basketball, because he was the basketball coach. He's the only person whose opinion my father respected. And that was only because Uncle Howie had played scholarship ball at Virginia Union in the 50s, all right? Go figure. A man whose family came from Jamaica in the Caribbean, played on scholarship at Virginia as a point guard, and would go on to coach basketball, coach Old Boys High to city championships, and then become the athletic director of BMCC. One day he just called himself coming over to visit his cousin and his cousin-in-law, my mother, and sees me outside playing. You know how you used to play taps on the sidewalk with your friends and pass the basketball? He saw me out there and he saw me dribbling the ball a little bit, and he comes inside, he says, hey, Donald, what's Dion doing with that basketball? Is he playing for his high school? Isn't he at Midwood High School? Is he playing? My dad's like, oh, that boy is crazy. He's not gonna, you know, he's not gonna do a schoolwork. You know, he needs to focus on this. Well, if he keeps a C+ average or a B average or something like that, let him play. I'll hook him up with basketball camp. Let him go. And my mother kind of jumped in, surprisingly, and she jumped in because normally mom and dad were like a tag team.
Right.
And she said, you know what? Let's try this. I think Howie has a point. Let's try this. So Uncle Howie, unbeknownst to me, because I'm outside.
Yes.
Major props to Uncle Howie, Boys High legend, coaching legend, you know. And I went to Carnesecca Sarachek for a week, and then I went for another week. Lou Carnesecca's camp with Red Sarachek, that used to own Circle Sports and coach Yeshiva University. And I did well, playing with guys like Chris Mullen, playing with Michael Riley, Roger McCready, you know, a few others that holds the Zavarian and St. Francis Prep family. And I was kind of independent because all those guys knew the grew up in camp together. And this time, Chris Mullen's little brother, Terrence, was like a little ankle biter. You know, he was like in grade school at the time, you know, and they would have me come back as a camper for several years in a row. And it was this really maturation process for me. And it just started, and that's when Artie Leitner, I told you, Artie was gonna let me try out. Artie was not gonna let me try out because no senior at that time had ever made the team. No senior had ever made the team at that point in Midwood. And Artie, that wasn't why he was gonna not let me, that wasn't why he was like pull me out the gym, well, pull me off the court. he said, listen, he used to call me Hollywood because I was picking up my afro. And he said, Hollywood, I can't let you try out. I said, Coach, why not? He said, well, you come down every year and after 2 or 3 weeks, you disappear. And I was like, okay, can we step outside in front of the gym? I got to tell you something. So I told him the reason why I wasn't like following up after 2 or 3 weeks from freshman, sophomore, and junior year was because I was sneaking to come to practice because my father and mother wouldn't let me play. And after 2 or 3 weeks, after the first week, like that was cool. But once I got into like the second week, I started getting my behind whooped.
Yeah.
Dad did not
relate.
Dad did not believe, my father did not believe in spare the rod and spoil the child.
Yep.
So I was getting my behind whooped. And let me tell you something, the longest walk is to get a piece of bush from the backyard for your own behind.
Wow.
So Dad,
I'm having flashbacks.
Dad was not having it. So he said, so wait a minute. He said, you're here now. What's different? I said, well, I went to basketball camp. They said I could play. You know, my uncle came over, had a conversation when he saw me with the basketball in front of the house, everything I just told you, gentlemen. And they agreed to let me go to camp. If I fared well at camp, you know, they would let me try for the team, and I fared well. And he said, well, what camp did we go to? And I told him, he said, what? And he said, wait a minute, who's your uncle? I said, well, he coached high school boys, the old boys high, and did very well as a coach. He said, I said, yeah, my uncle Howie. He said, Howie? Boys, Howie Jones is your uncle? I said, well, technically he's my cousin, but he's like my dad's age group, so I don't respect him.
Right, exactly. Yep.
That's that Jamaican stuff, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Auntie Tay and Uncle Joe, you know.
So so I tried out, and by the time we got to the start of the season, I was starting. Now I wasn't much of a high school player because I was trying to mix that whole street thing with the whole fundamental. My game developed after New York Tech when I got Pace University and Coach Halloran. I was on scholarship now, and also trained with Howie and Ted over the summer. Playing in tournaments against you guys. That Paul exposed me like greatly to basketball. Paul Mitchell.
Yeah, did I lose you, Dion? Yeah, Dion, you froze up. Les, you there? Both of you guys are froze.
Coach Paul, hey, my scholarship to Pace University. My scholarship to Pace University, there was a coach, more of a scout, that worked with Coach Rippey at FIT named Bob Bear. Bob used to go around and try to find all the guys who were under the radar.
Right.
At FIT. And when I came back from camp one year, he had left a message with my brother that he wanted to talk to me about, you know, but I had already, you know, been through orientation and was registered and everything for school at New York City Tech. So I ended up at New York City Tech, not FIT. And Coach Bear, though, he liked me so much that he stayed in contact with me. So he would come and watch us play in West 4th Street at the end of my freshman year. And he would tell coaches about me. He worked when Ray Amelbert was not trying to help any of us other than if we wanted to go to Utica Tech, and Reggie, who was going to go to, and from John Adams in Queens, Reggie Hayes. He and my mother and my brother, Coach Beer, got together and they sent out packages to about 65, 70 schools for me with my transcript, with my basketball resume, a photograph of me in street clothes, and a video with me hooping like a little 3-minute reel. And they pretty much marketed me. And out of like 65, 70 schools that we sent everything out to. And you know, back in those days, that's some money and some time.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They just started doing that in the past 10, 15 years.
You know, this is like, we were not like, we're in the digital age now. We can do that real, my son can do that in his phone, you know? So out of 65, 70 schools we sent to, I got positive responses from about 32 schools, and 9 schools a hard offer. And what made me choose, well, Pace came to see me play a couple times, but the game that sold Pace on me was when we played Harlem and we lost at Harlem USA in West Fork, and we lost in overtime. But I had a really good game, started at the 2 guard, and because it was that point in the summer, you know, later you get in the summer in New York City, the summer league, playoffs start. So I was the 7th man on that team. But I had to be a starter because 3 of our guys had one tournament game was like championship, important playoff game was up in Kings Towers. Another one was, I think, up at in the Rucker, and another one was
so you had to split it up. Did you freeze up again?
So I was like, hey, cool, I'm good. And Coach Halloran, God rest his soul, came to see me play with the assistant coach, Coach Byrne. And I had a really good game, and we went at it. And I was guarding Mario Ellie. And at the time, Mario was just, I think, finishing up or going into his senior year at American International. And here's a kicker. I didn't know Mario was Haitian.
Yes. And his brother played on that team too, right?
Yeah, Clark was the point guard. It was Clark and Sam Worthing in the backcourt.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
And Mario was playing small forward. So they come up the court, and Clark says something to Mario in Creole. He's like, Mario, yo, Vini Palo. I'm like, oh shit, Haitian? Yo, Mario went back door, caught the alley-oop, banged that shit backwards, and the whole fence and the hoop went like this. And I was like, oh man. So I was mad. I said, give me the ball. I said, D, chill. I said, give me the ball. So I got the ball, went back, crossed them up, back 3 points, you know? But it wasn't the same as him dunking backwards, going back door on me.
Yeah.
It just wasn't the same. It wasn't the
Mario
same.
was a beast at West 4th Street, man.
Crazy. They had another dude that was like my height, an inch taller than me. His real name, I think, was Charles, fair complexion brother. They called him Conan. His nickname was Conan.
Yeah, Conan.
Yeah. Charlie Robinson.
Charlie Robinson's his name?
Yeah. Conan.
That dude was a beast. Okay?
Yeah.
He was a beast. Okay. Playing against them dudes is what made me like really start hitting the weights. You know, playing especially Conan. That dude had he did a drop step on my cousin Ian. Ian pinned him to the board, but the dude was so strong that he still went this way and almost dunked it.
Yeah. Cole was a strong motherfucker, man.
He pinned him to the board. Ian caught him to the board, but he went up with 2 hands, and then he caught it in his turn, kind of like that dunk that Jamal Murray had, how it rattled in the other night when he got fouled on the fast break.
Yeah. Right.
That's what it looked like the way it went in. It looked like that.
Yeah. But Conan was a beast, man. But Anthony Mason was the beast of beasts, man, when it comes to strength. You know, Mario Eli had some strength too, but Anthony Mason, I don't know.
Mason with prime time.
Oh, that was Doug Wade's team.
Yeah, the primetime teams with Mason and Matt Tuck, those guys in West Fork, that was a little different. But Mason was like strong, like he like baby Huey strong.
Right.
Like he didn't have to lift weights. He's just naturally big and laughing at you. Serious, but it's like everything's a joke.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I liked about Mace. Like he made the game, even if you play, he made the game fun. He made it fun because he's a big dude. And like, I remember doing an interview with him for my TV show, New York Vibes, back in the day at the Garden, where they had the, what do you call that? The wheelchair charity games. And I'm interviewing him, and he's going like this. He said, "Yeah, well, you know," I said, "Mace, how does it feel to be involved with the event to help out the paraplegics and the wheelchairs and everything?" And he's like, "Well, you know, I just have to come out, show my muscles, and I mean, he's like, brothers, he's really, really dead serious about it. This is like all get out, but that's the that's the
yeah. May he rest in peace, man.
Yep,
Yeah, man, definitely, man. And it's like it's funny how you come full circle of all the people that we've experienced playing against and with over the years, what we've grabbed and the fruits of all of that we've grabbed and held on to. And you look 50 years later, and we look at all those experiences, and Les and I have been doing these with a lot of people, and such a commonality of comment and content of what the experience was during our era. And I always want to shed light on that is, once again, we have done something that is normally not done other than like fraternities and sororities with that camaraderie and what we've learned, skill sets, and grown up to be good men, women, and people from our era, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud of you, bro, as a matter of fact.
Absolutely.
What you said, Les?
To speak with you, man, I'm even more impressed than what I knew.
Yeah, it's that Midwood stuff, man.
It goes listen, it goes along because you all, like, when I mentioned Paul Black a few times. Paul Black, you like you with just your size and presence in the middle, less than how you shooting. Paul, I had to hear that all the time. Go on the wing, and I could go down low. So
exactly.
Both sides, And,
Yo, did we lose you, Dion?
No, I'm here.
He's there. He's there.
I got to applaud you guys for doing what you're doing, and also work, Eric, that y'all have done also with Ball Side Middle and Greg Booth. It's a fraternity. It really is. And what you're doing here with this is not easy. It makes it seem like it comes easy, like the fabric of your character. However, it's planning, it's scheduling, it's knowing who you're interviewing. Believe me, as you said before, I have experience with the broadcast world. Yes, TV and radio, independent radio, and also in the LIB and BLS and doing television with New York Vibes. It is. I commend you guys, and then you have families too. So
Yeah.
Sure, this is like another child in the family.
Well, I'm gonna tell you something, bro. We can tell that you've done this before because you are. Yeah. It's been a pleasure for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And for me, this is pretty easy because the content is a comfort zone. I'm a subject matter expert on that era. So before, after, and I have respect for the history. So between all of those things, I mean, and that's the key, having respect for the history and let you speak to who you are. I could come and do this show and speak to who I think you are, but I'd rather you I want to know what you think of yourself within the realm of your experiences. And there's no better teacher or interviewer than you speaking on who you are, and then let everybody make their own judgment, but and then in this case, it's fairly simple, to go through this process and have a forum for everybody to speak. And I'm glad to be able to do it.
Once again, I thank you all for having me here. It's interesting when I'm normally the one doing the interviews, not talking about myself. So.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you're accustomed to driving all the time and you get to sit in the passenger seat.
I definitely understand. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
It's a good feel. It's a good feel. And we definitely need to catch up, like offline, like he said, and talk about some other things that you want.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
without a doubt.
Yeah.
So with that
Yeah.
being said, I'd like to just thank you once again, Dion, for being on the show. It definitely was a pleasure speaking with you and sharing your experiences. You got anything to add with that, Les?
No, man, yo, I love you even more now, brother. That's all I can say, man.
I want to get you guys connected to Paul Black. That's what I want to do.
I think we definitely need to do Paul Black. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
To connect up with Paul Black. Also, I think when I talked to Cliff Morgan, I don't know if he knows that you all are doing this. Cliff would probably be a really good interview because he'll take you on the international piece.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
That'll be
and
nice.
Cliff has been doing things, and that's when, yeah, I'm glad you said that because Cliff is one of the people that are on that list that people have no idea what experiences that he has had in the basketball world in his career. They have no idea. And he has had major impacts, internationally.
And just so you know, that tournament's just so you know, I coming out of Pace, right? Well, first of all, going to Pace, my father didn't believe I was going to get a basketball scholarship. Just didn't, because old school Jamaican educated, all of that stuff. Time to sign, when I signed the letter of intent and everything, he literally said to me, he said, "Look," he said, "Coach, you're saying that you're gonna like pay for everything, and my wife and I pay for anything?" Because back when I was in City University, it was $512 per semester for a full course load.
Right.
So going to Pace University was going to be a lot more money, but they were paying for it. Like, the attorney signed this. Like, look over it. What family attorney? Y'all are paying for it. We're going to sign this right now. And you're not, let's get this. As the kids would say now, let's get the bag right now, right? So I said, we have to look at this. We have to like check this out because we have certain things that's supposed to be in this agreement that they're not here, can't sign it. And he's crazy. So I look at it real quick. Done.
Right.
Dad really had nothing to do with it. He didn't think none of this was happening. He thought we were just all spinning our wheels, right?
Right.
Okay. So I look at it, and in the third page, fourth down, there is no dialogue there that says that they're going to keep me on scholarship after my eligibility is absorbed. And that was a key thing for me. Coming out of New York City with an associate degree, I needed 60 college credits for my associate degree, and I had 60 was only going to accept 49 of my credits out of 60. If I would have went to Brooklyn College, which is where my father wanted me to go, because I was with Mark Ryan, the late Mark Ryan, they accepted everything because it's still the City University. But I didn't want to go. I mean, I love Keith Brady, I love Dave, I love Joe Healy, Kurt Clark, all of those. I love those guys. They were playing out of position every night. I knew if I went
plus
to
you would have been going to college right across the street from where you went to high school.
I mean, listen, I would have loved to play. Listen, if they were 6'10", 6'10", 6'10" across the front line, I would have loved to have gone to Midwood. They were playing out of, to Brooklyn College. They were playing out of position every night. I wanted to play in my position. I wanted a chance to, I said, Dad, you go to college to get a good education, to get socially adjusted, and to win some games and have fun. College, I'm gonna lose like 25. We're gonna lose 25 games.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough.
I know what Pace has coming in, and so when I pointed out to Coach that clause wasn't it was what I was calling a deal point wasn't there. Coach said, "You know what, Dion, we'll get this fixed for you, and you can pick it up tomorrow." So on the way home, we had taken a train into Lower Manhattan that day. But riding on the train, and my father, old school, he don't apologize for anything. He looks at me and says, "Boy, how did you know to ask about that?" And I said, "Well, Dad, if you think at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm working out with my boys, I'm hanging with a bunch of and goofing off." I said, but when we have these games, we are playing with guys who are older than us. Some of them play in the NBA, some of them play overseas, and they actually school us on the business of being a student athlete.
Right.
Tell us what to look for. And knowing that a couple of us are coming out of junior college and they know that I'm getting an associate degree, they said, make sure that they are going to keep you on scholarship until you graduate. Make sure that is written in. Don't let them verbally give you an agreement. Make sure that they literally are going to write it into your letter of intent. So my father was like, you know what? He's like, you know what? You did good. He said, you did good. You know, and that's something that a lot of guys, you know, we see guys bounce around from school to school and they end up with no degree at all, or with a fat bill and can't get the degree until they literally pay that bill.
Right.
That was something that, fortunately, you know, as a matter of fact, you know who specifically told me to look out for that? The first person, a guy that played in Lefferts Park that went over to England to play ball, Tony Balogun. I don't remember where Tony Balogun went to college, but Tony was a guy who was born in England, raised over here. So instead of them having two Americans on their team, technically they could have three because he had dual citizenship.
Right. But he gets dunked on too much, so.
but yeah, he played with me at Brooklyn Tech.
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah,
man. That's another story though that I'll tell you offline.
Okay.
That motherfucker. Okay.
But brothers, thank you again, man. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Continue doing what you're doing with this. It's much needed. I mean, we have too many guys that are out there pontificating and all of that don't even know the game.
Right.
I'm not gonna say any names, but some of them, like, you know, y'all know what I'm talking about, certain cable networks.
Absolutely.
Like they used to play ball and they didn't play ball.
Right.
You guys, you know, I know. Y'all look.
And the impressions and the information that we're sharing is on facts and not on, you know, television ratings. You know, so. But listen, it's been great, everyone. Right. It's great seeing you all. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.
All right, y'all stay strong and hold tight.